everyone can see this? Is it too bright? Okay? Okay, then today we will study quicksort. I'll explain two quicksort algorithms. Normal quicksort and the randomized quicksort. Normal quicksort is a divide and conquer approach. Actually, we studied a sorting algorithm based on a divide and conquer paradigm. What was it? Anna? We also learned a sorting algorithm based on this divide and conquer approach. What is it? Merge sort, right, merge sort. Merge sort follows the divide and conquer approach. And quicksort is similar. It first partitions the array and recursively perform quicksort on each partition. But partitioning process is different from the partitioning process of merge sort. Let me explain. Okay, this is the partitioning procedure. Let's see this example. Usually, in the partitioning process, we select a pivot element from the partition. Usually, the rightmost element is selected. And in this case, 4 is in the rightmost position, and then it is selected. And then, after the partitioning, in the left partition, all elements are less than or equal to the pivot element. And in the right partition, all elements are bigger than or equal to the pivot element 4. So this is the aim of the partition. In general, it can be written like this. The pivot element and x, and in the left partition, all elements are less than or equal to x, and in the right partition, all elements are bigger than or equal to x. Okay, then how can you get this? Any suggestions? Youngju. Okay, can you suggest an idea to partition this array? Just say a simple solution. 현은율, 주정한. Okay. Can you suggest a simple partition algorithm? 조한상. Just partitioning. 조경재. A simple one. I'm not asking you the correct quicksort partitioning. I'm asking you a simple partitioning. Sorry. Pivot element and compare these two numbers and swap until it comes to here. Then 7 cannot be in the right partition. So you mean the swapping in insertion sort, but it doesn't work in this case. To be more exact, let me clarify the partitioning problem. In this case, a pivot element is given from the the input array. Then the purpose is move all the elements greater than or not all the elements. Just maybe there are. Let's consider a simple situation. There is no more 4 in this partition. So every element is different. Then all the smaller elements are in the left partition and all the larger elements are in the right partition. What is your simplest solution to this question, to this problem? Okay, then with the number 4, scan this array from the left to right. And then 2 is smaller than 4. So we allocate an additional array like this and then move 2 to here. And how about this? 8 is bigger than 4. So place it here. And then 7, big, 1, small, 3, small, 5, big, 6, big. Very simple. At least you should think this solution. There is a very simple partitioning solution like this. Okay? By using an additional array, partitioning is very simple. And it takes linear time, just one scan. But why is this simple procedure not used in the quicksort? What is the problem of this method? The problem is requiring additional array. We need an additional array if we use this algorithm. Okay? So one of the benefits of quicksort is sorting in place. But if we use this partitioning algorithm, it doesn't sort in place. So we need a partitioning algorithm in place. Okay? In place partitioning algorithm. And this is it. Look at this page carefully and try to understand this in-place partitioning algorithm. With this pivot element, it scans from the left. And first, we maintain 2 intervals, smaller partition and larger partition. So in this case, 2 is smaller than 4, so we extend the smaller partition. And then 8 is bigger than 4, so we extend the larger partition. And then it scans again. And there is no problem if the next element is larger than the pivot. We simply extend the larger partition. But the problem occurs when we come across a smaller element. What should we do? 조정환. Okay. What should we do if we come across a smaller element like this? So what to do in this case?
구간 사이에 벽을 한 칸 옮기고 그 앞에다.
Okay, can you explain in detail using this example?
8이랑 7을 한 칸씩 그 뒤로부터 한 칸씩 뒤로 옮기고 그 앞자리.
No. If you do that, it takes a lot of time. Yes, swapping. We swap 8 with 1. We don't slide all of them. In that case, it takes more time. So we just swap 8 with 1, like this. Then we can maintain 2 partitions and they are adjacent. Look at this. And 3 is also smaller than 4, so we just swap 3 with 7. And we will get this. And the other elements, 5 and 6, are larger than 4, so we simply extend the bigger interval, the bigger partition. So finally, after the scanning, we get this state. So the last thing to do is 윤호상. What is it? What is the last thing to do? Okay, we swap the pivot element with the first element in the larger partition. Okay, then we have a partition like this. This is in-place partitioning. We don't need an additional array. And the partitioning takes theta of n time. Then let's get back to the quicksort algorithm. Quicksort algorithm runs like this. It makes 2 partitions and find a proper place for the pivot element. Note that the pivot element will be here after sorting, because there are some exchanges among these elements, and there are some order changes among these elements, but there are no other changes between these 2 partitions and with the pivot. So we recursively apply quicksort on this partition and this partition. So the pseudocode is like this. And now I will explain balanced partitioning and unbalanced partitioning. X can be placed in any location. If we are lucky, X is placed around the center element. In the best case, it is at the center. So the size of two partitions are almost the same. Okay? It is called a balanced partitioning. Then its running time is very similar to the running time of merge sort. Okay? So it is big O of and log n. And next, let's think about the unbalanced partitioning. What is the most asymmetric partitioning? Park Sung-hyun. Okay, can you suggest a most asymmetric partitioning? Okay. When the pivot element is the largest element in the partition or the smallest element in the partition, then we have no two partitions. We have only one partition and pivot. For example, if one is selected as a pivot, then one is placed here and all the elements will lie here. That's the worst case unbalanced partitioning, like this. Pivot and others, pivot and others, pivot and others. We already studied a sorting algorithm which has the same partitioning process like this. Do you remember? So did you understand the unbalanced partitioning? Really? Han Sang-hyun. Selection sort, right. So this algorithm is exactly, in this case, quicksort is exactly the same as selection sort. Take the smallest element and the second smallest element and third smallest element. So its running time is theta of n squared. So the running time of quicksort is theta of n log n in best case, and in worst case, theta of n squared. Then it sounds quite strange. We already studied a lot of algorithms which run in theta of n squared in the worst case. What are they? 최용준. 최용준? Big O of n squared. Worst case running time algorithm. 정명수. Insertion sort, right. And what is the best case running time of insertion sort? Best case, 이종하. Okay, let's compare insertion sort and quicksort. Best case. Insertion quicksort, best case running time is n log n, and its worst case running time is n squared. And the worst case running time of insertion sort is n squared. 이종하. Okay. What is the running time, best case running time of insertion sort? N squared. 이정우. N. Yes, big O, theta of n. Well, now let's compare these two sorting algorithms. Which is better? Insertion is better, but insertion sort is rarely used except that when the input size is very small. In most cases, quicksort is used. Why? The secret is average case running time. On average, the running time of insertion sort is n squared. But the average case running time is n log n. It means there are only a few best cases. But in this case, there are only very few worst cases. So that's why quicksort is used more than insertion sort. Okay, I will skip these analytic pages. So I skipped several pages, and in that page, it analyzes the average case running time of quicksort. But I'll not teach you in detail about that. Okay, then we now found out the average case running time of quicksort is quite good. But sometimes the worst case might happen than we think might happen frequently, you may think. Okay, assume that we select the pivot element in the rightmost position. Okay? Then think about this situation. The array is already sorted. Okay? We have a sorted array, but we don't know it is really sorted. So we run a sorting algorithm on the array. But if it is already sorted, it corresponds to which case of quicksort? Worst case. If it is sorted, the pivot element in the rightmost position is the maximum element. So it gets the most unbalanced partitioning. And then take the second in the next partition, we will take the second rightmost element, and it also creates the worst case partitioning. So we have to handle this case when it is sorted. A simple solution is the randomized partitioning. Instead of taking the pivot in a fixed place, we select the pivot in any element, and it is randomly selected. Then we don't suffer that problem. Even though the array is already sorted, we can avoid the worst case behavior. That's the idea of randomized quicksort. I'm not saying that the quicksort becomes faster. I'm saying that the worst case performance can be moved to another layout, not the sorted example. That's the main point. And it becomes different in every run. Even though we run the randomized quicksort twice, the running time of the first execution is different from the running time of the second execution of quicksort, because the running time is depending on the pivot element selection. And then I will explain the next chapter, sorting in linear time. I will not cover all the topics in this chapter. I'll tell you about the lower bounds for sorting. The main idea is simple. The worst case running time of any sorting algorithm cannot be better than this. N log n. You cannot develop an algorithm whose worst case running time is better than this. If you use only comparisons, this is important. If we use other information, we can have better sorting algorithms. Then I'll explain them later. But in this time, I will tell you there is no better sorting algorithm using comparisons. Comparisons are like this. Comparison tests are just compare two numbers. There are 5 types of comparisons to test if one is smaller than the other or not, or to test one is less than or equal to the other or not, and to test if they are equal or not. And so we have these things. And we've learned these sorting algorithms: heap sort, merge sort, insertion sort, selection sort, and quick sort. And we used only comparison tests. Okay? So they are all comparison sorts. And I will explain now from that any comparison sort must make omega of and log n comparisons in the worst case. So no comparison sort is faster than theta of n log n in the worst case. Let me show you. Okay, actually I have to show it is true for every comparison operators, but I will show you it is true only less than or equal to. Then showing the same thing with other operators are similar. Okay, first, comparison sorts can be viewed in terms of decision trees. Decision tree is a full binary tree, and each leaf is a permutation of input elements. Look at this tree. This is a decision tree using 3 elements. And 1, 2, 3 here are the position, the indexes in the original array. And then we have 6 candidates of the output of sorting. A1, A2, and A3. Then, as I told you, sorting is a kind of permutation. Okay? Depending on the values here. So the sorting result can be like this. If A2 is greater than A3. Or the sorting result can be like this. If A2 is smaller than A1. Okay? And you know there are this number of permutations. So, in the leaves, all such permutations are enumerated. 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, okay, and 2, 1, 3, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Note that these values are indexes. And then each internal load I column j indicates a comparison between ai and aj. So this is one and comparison between A1 and A2. And look at this symbol. It means less than or equal to. So it means A1 is less than or equal to A2. So in this case, A1 comes before A2. In all the result, 1 is before 2. In the right subtree, in this case, A1 is bigger than A2, so A2 is before A1. And then look at this one. It says in its left subtree, A2 is before A3, and its right subtree, A3 is before A2. So the execution of the sorting algorithm corresponds to tracing a path from the root of the decision tree to a leaf. If we reach a leaf, then the sorting is done with the help of 3 comparisons. So we need 3 comparisons to distinguish these 2 outputs. So I think this is not easy to understand. So if you don't understand this, ask me now. And how many solutions are there if we have n elements in the input array? Yes, we have n factorial possible solutions. Okay? Then our aim is to select one of the solutions using comparisons. So the sorting problem can be viewed in that way. More exactly, comparison sorts can be viewed in that way, using comparisons to select only one of them from n factorial solutions. Okay? More clear now? And then this decision tree shows you how to do it. And then now, let's consider the running time. If the answer is this, okay, then we need 2 comparisons to find out this is the solution. If A1, we compare A1 and A2, and then A2 and A3, if these 2 relations are satisfied, then the answer is this. But how about this? If this is the solution, we need 3 comparisons. So in this case, we need 3 comparisons in the worst case. So the worst case number of comparisons is the same as the height of the decision tree. Okay? Then it's time to explain the theorem that any comparison sort requires n log n comparisons in the worst case. And look at this. What is the number of leaves we have n factorial leaves. Okay? Then decision tree is a binary tree. So as you know, the complete binary tree is the best binary tree that minimizes the height. Okay? To minimize the height, the tree should be a complete binary tree. If it is not a complete binary tree, the height is bigger. So assume that we build a complete binary tree. Then, to have n factorial leaves, let's calculate the height. Sorry. 1, 2, 4, 8. So the number of leaves of height h is like this. And it should be bigger than n factorial if these three have n factorial leaves. Or, more exactly, let's find the height of h where the tree has n factorial leaves. Then h is log n factorial. And there is a known fact that log n factorial is the same as log n log n. So the height cannot be smaller than n log n. So the worst case running time cannot be better than n log n. We have a couple of minutes, so if you think it isn't clear, ask me questions, even though it is very simple. I don't think you totally understand this. Maybe you are all genius, but I don't think so. It isn't easy to understand. Let me add some comments. So it's like the binary search. If we use a comparison, then the half of the candidates are removed. But we have n factorial candidates. So it takes, the main idea is, it takes n log n comparisons to go down to one leaf remained. If there are n candidates, we need n log n comparisons. Okay, you know that. But in this case, we have n factorial candidates, so it takes n log n time. In this material, you can see some self-study problems. So in the examination, I think 30% is from your review. Okay? 30%, 1/3 of the problems are very similar to the problems in your review. And another 30% is from the self-study questions. So if you master review questions and self-study questions, then you can get 66 points from the midterm examination. Normally, the average is around 50. So, some students even don't get point from the questions in the review. So practice the questions in review perfectly and try to solve questions in self-study. So I think I will have a time to get some questions about self-studies. It may be just before the midterm exam.